UPS man showed up, and I think we have a toe pan. Hopefully,
Yay.
it's the right hand side.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah, we don't want two left hands.
No.
So, we're going to see.
Yay, that looks cool.
Okay. Yeah, it is the right hand. Yeah,
See.
it even says R on it. Woohoo! Yay!
That's awesome.
All right, now we can finish up on our floor pans. Okay, I decided, since I got my toe pan in on this side, that I was going to go ahead and start getting the driver's side fitted and welded in. So, got underneath marked, and I got to drill holes for plug welds, and got this little seat belt flange nut or whatever you call it. Gotta drill some holes for that, put that on there. Now in the rear floor pan, this is all one piece, so I can't cut and butt here, so I've measured and cut. The rest here I can do the cut and butt, just trim it off and peel it away from the inside, underneath rather. And so I'm gonna have to drill some holes around here for plug welds, and then a bunch here. I had to cut my flange off right there because, well, you can't get it in right here. So we'll just put a lot of plug welds right there and run a bead here, and that'll be strong. And then of course we'll drill holes for this area along here. We'll put a bunch of plug welds, and then on the edge of the flange, got my little Harbor Freight punch tool, so I can go ahead and punch that rear floor pan around there. And got a lot of sirens going on out there. And I can use that little tool to plug weld here, punch out over here, all my flanges down that side. But the rest of these got to be drilled, so we're going to go ahead and get started on that. And I've done a lot of fitting already. Trimmed it back, and these seat belt or seat mounting holes, when you line up all of these bumps, well, these rear ones don't line up, so you got to kind of ream them a little bit, and then we'll fill in because it's up against this, so we can just kind of fill in the whole area really good and smooth it out. Front one's lined up pretty good, and we're going to meet our flange up here so we can do our little plug welds there. Then I'll do a cut and butt. This right here I'm going to have to trim out, get the rest of them spot welds out so that we can butt weld it right there. This here will get cut off, and I've left just about a ½ an inch all the way along. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on getting all our plug welds ready. Okay, I got all my holes drilled for the plug welds on the frame rails, and I got to go ahead and use my punch tool to get these flanges along here and along the front. But I discovered that this little seat belt flange, I found this ginormous washer. It's really thick, and if I take and bolt this right there and get it centered up, I can go ahead and fill these plug welds. I'll just tighten that down really good, and I think my C-clamp will reach part of it. But we'll get that plug welded in before we put the floor pan in, and that'll just make it a lot easier. So here we go with punching the holes along the flange. And then we'll be almost ready. We're going to do a little weld through primer and paint inside where the frame rails go, because we don't have access to them anymore. But here we go with that. Okay, this is a really cool tool. A lot faster than drilling. Starting to really look good. Got a new floor pan in here. We can commence to start doing the welding. I've got it sucked down here with tack screws so we can fill those plug welds. And I got these big ginormous heavy duty washers, and I got it sucked down tight to the frame rails with these seat bolts. And I'll probably put a few more tack screws here to suck that down tight. And back here too, I got this welded in, the seatbelt thing, and then I got all these plug welds to do up here at the end of this frame rail. And I think what I'll probably start doing first is doing my seam weld all along here. Draw this down and cut off a little bit of this here because the tunnel up here is in really good shape. I got it all sanded down, all the primer paint stripped off of it, and we'll get this all sucked down tight and start running our seam weld, put our little butt clamps in there. But yeah, it's starting to really look good. We got the toe pan done, this one done. Once this is in place, we'll get that rear floor pan in and go ahead and get that other toe pan in and work our way from the front to the back. And when we're done, I'm gonna go ahead and scuff all this up and just slather on with a brush PRO15 underneath. I learned my lesson. You don't use a brush underneath, you get half of it on you. I'm gonna mix it up and spray it on underneath, get everything all scuffed up and cleaned up, and it'll be preserved from the top to the bottom all the way around. We'll have all our floor pans done. Now we can move on to these quarter panels and wheel wells, and still got to order my trunk drop-offs, but I found a good deal on eBay. We'll probably get those coming here pretty soon. But we're gonna go ahead and let all the weld through primer dry overnight and come in tomorrow and start doing our welding. So see you tomorrow, and we'll start working on that too. getting my seam welded up here. Kind of knock down the weld a little bit. I don't want to knock it down all the way. I don't want to sacrifice strength for something that's gonna be seam sealed and under the sound deadening and carpet. So we just got to keep on going along here. And of course I avoided the shifter hole because all that's good. And using these little butt clamps, you can just slide them through the slot, tighten them up, and that little square stock pinches the metal together flush, and then you can weld in between them and keep moving them down. They're pretty cool. You can get them at Harbor Freight or online. I got these at Harbor Freight, but just keep on going on this. Then I can work on all my plug welds, and then use the C-clamp here to draw that gap together. And we'll have this middle section. And then all we got to do is put in that rear one and plug weld back here, plug weld over there, a little bit of a seam over here, and then seam it together with that. So I'm gonna just keep on going on this. And of course I got my seat belt bracket thingy all plug welded on before I put the pan down. Got all my weld through primer and whatnot. These washers holding it down to the frame rails is working pretty good. It already feels solid just with those in there, and I hadn't even done the plug welds yet, but we'll get these hammered down good and some tack screws. Get that all plug welded up, and then we can move on to the other side and get that finished up, and we'll have a floor pan. Get it all sealed up with POR 14 underneath and on top. Then we move on to the back of the car and just keep on going until we got a new car. Well, about, I'd say 60% new. The rest is good. So here we go with finishing up the seam. Plug welds done all through the frame rails. Still got a little more up here to do. It won't take long. And finished my seam all the way up here. And I'm gonna go ahead and start fitting the rear piece. And still got to do a few spot welds on my flange. This is the first time this car started to feel solid. It actually has some floor pans. That's awesome. So we're going ahead and cut and butt here, all along here, do some plug welds up here, and then we can move on to that toe pan. All right, I got my center floor pan pretty well wrapped up, seam welded up, and I've got the rear one, and I welded in the little seat belt nut in there, and got it pretty good. And there like that. And I'll get some tack screws to suck that down really good. Do a butt weld along here, across here. Got it drilled out for plug welds over here. And I've got my other toe pan over here, pretty well fit up. Took a little bit of doing because it didn't fit so good over here. So I had to trim that back and re-weld it. It's had to settle for this toe pan because everyone was out of stock on the good fitting ones. So, but you know, a little bit of work and we got it to fit pretty good. And we'll go ahead and do the cut and butt up here and down here. Got this clamped down to do some plug welds. It had this weird like whoopty in here. And I looked at the other floor pan and it's got it too. There's kind of no rhyme or reason why they got so many bumps and different things in the stampings, but I guess that's just the way they make the dies. I suppose it makes it a little stronger having all the little bumps and dips, and you know, gives it some rigidity. So, but we're gonna go ahead and get this one cut out and welded up and plug welded, and go ahead and start working on that rear one over there. As soon as we get this one done, we can start fitting this one and then go to the rear, you know, because like I said, these have a lot of overlap back here. So if you're a little bit that way, you know, you got plenty right there, you know, to make up for any shortfalls. But if you go the other way, well, there ain't much here, you know, to fudge it back and forth just a little bit. So let me go ahead and get that one welded in, that one welded in. We'll move on to these. So far, I've been able to butt weld this by using a screwdriver to bring it up even, and because I don't have any access back here, but over here I can use my little butt clamps, and I have my assistant putting in the little things on the outside. Got it?
Oh, wait a minute.
You dropped it.
It went all the way through.
Well, you gotta hold it there until I tighten it down. Got it?
No. I'll get in there. Okay, go ahead.
Alright. Okay. Now, one more over here.
Okay.
Alright. Alright, now I can go ahead and finish welding this up, cut this out, put some more butt clamps in there, and we'll be on our way to getting this little toe pan finished up. toe pan welded in, and turned out pretty solid. And now can move on to a rear pan over there. Still got a little, finding little pinholes and filling in. Got to sand that down a little bit, but didn't have no access over here, so I ran a big old bead in that kind of curved edge there. And well, it's not factory original, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be quite a bit stronger than 2 or 3 spot welds, so it ain't going nowhere. It's solid. Way better than this floor started out with, for sure. So I'm gonna move on to this rear floor pan, and it'll be nice to have that whole side done and get all our dust and dirt and stuff cleaned up, and get some paint on there, and later on we'll do the seam sealer and whatnot. So gonna go ahead and move on to that one. All right in this area here, I don't have any access, so I cut out that piece and removed all the old spot welds. I'll be able to draw this up with some tack screws. The rest of this I can do the cut and butt and peel it off in the back. Over here, pretty much the same. I'll be able to have access to this underneath and peel that off. Of course, these floor pans never fit, perfect. And I got some gaps here, so that we're gonna have to really suck it down. I got some longer tack screws that will suck that down, and then we can, right in here, it's not too bad. Use the smaller tack screws, get the plug welds plugged up, and yeah, over here, this will get this pushed down right there to get all these plug welds, and I think we'll be looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting started on this one. Tack screws in here, got it sucked down really good. And if you're wondering how strong this frame rail is, I had to drill pilot holes for these self tappers. That was so thick right there. And yeah, they're still in good shape. Of course, I had to patch up the areas that were rusted away, but the rest of it is good and solid. So all right, we can go ahead and start filling all the seam up. Going this way, going this way. I cut a little bit of it out here because I don't have access, so there's just going to be a thin slice, and hopefully I can slide it out from underneath this way. But got it all in place. I'm going to start welding on this. about 95 degrees and 100% humidity, so that's why I've been doing a lot of time lapse so I can run that thing. And so we've got our stitch welds pretty much, you know, seam welds stitched up, and I just got to go back and fill in the dots, and then I can go ahead and get all these plug welds done, and then we'll almost have this whole side done. Have to excuse all the tools. It takes a lot of different tools to pry and tug and get your seams to line up and tack down your plug welds and whatnot. So, but yeah, we're gonna try to get this one wrapped up and then move on to the center one. That'll cover a big chunk. That'll only leave us that one little rear pan, and we'll be getting really close to finishing up these floor pans. So we're gonna go ahead and finish this one up and move on to the next one. We have got the whole driver's side floor pan completely in, from the toe board all the way up here, all the way to the back. So that is awesome. It's starting to feel like a real car instead of a complete rust bucket. Now we're gonna go ahead and start trimming and fitting the passenger side, work our way to the back, and then get that one. And we'll have floor pans all the way from the toe pans, well, partial toe pans. The rest of it's really good shape, and this roof up in here, it's pristine, not a bit of rust. So we're gonna go ahead and start working on getting that fit up and go ahead and try to get these floor pans finished up. Okay, my method of fitting is just hack away at whatever's in your way until you get it to drop down in place. Then you got to be more careful. I always like to go underneath and make a line where the existing is, and that's the no-go line. You know, so you're not hacking too much off. Once you get it close, then you can get it all tacked down and then do your cut and butt on the seams. Got to draw this gap up a little bit better, do a little bit more trimming, but we're getting real close here. Got to clean up this inner rocker a little bit more. And then of course, got to get this to draw down here. We got a huge gap here, but it's getting close. So once we got it kind of in place, and looks like it should go a little bit more forward because the hole ain't lining up there. Of course, on the other side, the rear holes didn't line up anyway, so we had to make it fit. So get this all fit and drop down in there and do all our weld through primer and prep and whatnot, and we'll just start welding this sucker in here. It's really starting to look like a car now. You get that filled in, that'll be real nice. Okay, well, it's getting late today, so tomorrow we'll come back and do a little more precise fitting on this and see how much we can get done. I got everything fit up, got all my holes punched, and got it all sucked down with the tack screws. And I like to get the long seam done and out of the way because that takes the longest. Get that done, and then plug welds go pretty quick. So go ahead and start cutting here and use the little butt clamps, and we'll run the wire wheel across this coating here to clean it off so we get a good weld. And once that's all stitched up and filled in solid, then we can move on to the plug welds. And yeah, that's the most time consuming, is getting it to fit. Once you get it to fit, then it's just a matter of doing some steady welding and keep working at it and get the seams all filled in. And then just zip around all the plug welds, and next thing you know, you're done. So go ahead and get going on this one. All right, go ahead and stick them in there.
Right there?
Yeah, a little farther back. Alright, tighten it up.
Right there?
Alright, go ahead, tighten up.
Cool.
got the camera cooled down on the AC. It's a little more sensitive than I am, because I finished up doing my seam. Well, it was cooling down. Got it all welded up all the way back. And I did a little fitting on my rear pan. And this is Auto Metal Direct. And man, you can tell the difference. It's a lot thicker than those toe pans. Those, they were a little bit difficult to weld because they were so thin. But main floor pans, both of these rear ones, really good quality, and I think that'll make it pretty strong. I'll have to go ahead and finish up the plug welds on this, but before I do that, I think I'll get my rear pan fit, do my seam welds here, have it all tacked down and prepped, and that way we can just go from front to back and do all our plug welds, and then this thing will be back to, well, not quite factory original, but just as strong, if not stronger. So we're gonna keep on going on this until we get this thing completely done, and that way we can move on to those really rusty quarters. Yeah, but wanted to have this done so we got some strength in the body. Then we can start hacking off the rear end and fixing all the rust back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish these up, and we'll be done with these floor pans. All right, I got my final floor pan all fit, and weld through primer and holes punch for plug welds. And this one just drops right in there. Fits really good. Well, with the exception of this hole, but all these cars are made a little bit different, and so can't expect those to always line up. But it looks like it's going to fit really nicely. Plug weld it. Now all I got to do is get some tack screws in it and suck it down good, and can do my seam welds and plug welds, and it's starting to really look like a car. It's got floor pans from front to rear now. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing finished up. Where these three pieces come together, I left me about an 1/8 inch gap right here, so that I could weld this, and the piece behind all together, so it makes it really strong. Got a few little pinholes that I gotta fill in, and of course, when I'm done, I'll take this light, put it under the car, and all the little pinholes will magically appear, and I can go around and fill them up and plug them in. So that's my method of doing it anyways. But got that little section done. I'll do my cut and butt here, plug welds, and our floor pans will be done.
Did it go?
Okay.
It's still in there?
Yeah, it's in there. You just gotta tighten it down.
Right there?
Alright.
Got it?
Yeah.
Well, that one was easier. There you go.
Alright. Okay, finally got all my seam welds done all the way back to there, and that's the most time consuming, and all that leaves is all of these plug welds from the very front to the very back. And I'm gonna go straight ahead and start getting all these plug welds filled in. Plug welds done on the passenger side and smoothed them all out with a little flapper disc, and I'd say we've got these floor pans finished. You know, it took about a month's worth of evenings and weekends, and after replacing these outer rockers on both sides, putting in floor pans and toe pans, I'd say we've increased the value of this vehicle quite considerably. So that's going to be about it for this video, and if you watched the first half, you'd see just how bad these floor pans were. They were gigantic holes, and we appreciate the positive comments on that first video, and we hope you watch this one as well, and we appreciate you watching.